Chief Dex Bishop of LSPD, and Astrid Dangle of SASP Public Affairs, stopped by the Weasel News studio for an exclusive interview.
San Andreas' population has recently skyrocketed over the last few months, with more faces in the city and statistically an uptick in crime. What are some ways that PD has gone about preparing themselves for increased criminal activity?
More hiring, a more fluid process for hiring and training new people. A lot of focus on the community side of policing and training in that manner. Focus groups that we've held when it comes to better training our people towards de-escalation and a more, less violent approach to crime. But besides that, I guess more frequent trainings throughout the entire state of San Andreas. Heavily hiring and bringing on onboarding interns within the PA department. We would like to make sure that 24/7 there's someone there from the state police, even if it's not an officer, just to kind of address people's concerns.
Yeah, especially with us doing more interviewing and hiring and things to kind of combat the growing population and just like the increase in crime in general. They've been a really good and instrumental part of making sure that the day-to-day stuff doesn't go unnoticed. They've taken up a lot. They've done really well, like exceedingly well, like beyond my expectation when we brought them in. The PA department has grown since like recently. Within the past couple of weeks, we've had multiple hires. We've got gatekeepers as well, just people who are assisting PD with PD issues, and we're doing our own towing, and of course Gary and Billy Bob and Trusardi, and also just officers biding their time into the PA department to try to be that person that can go between the public and PD, and helping out with licensing and setting up interviews and just being that person to file their complaints with, or any police report, not just even a complaint, just reports that may otherwise go unnoticed depending on the time of day or whatever. It's been booming lately.
Yeah. What is something about the job of law enforcement officer that you wish citizens understood more?
Like average citizen that doesn't have an interaction with the police too often, I think it's really important for them to recognize that PD is a formidable force. There are hundreds of officers, and it can be really hard for people to realize that a single cop is not every cop, and it's not a reflection of the entirety of the force, and that cops are just people. Genuinely, that's what it boils down to. Most of the complaints that we get on officers is just a lack of understanding, or a lack of insight into the average day-to-day things that cops have to deal with. They're people, they're humans, they make mistakes. Not every cop, but there are certainly some cops. But just being able to recognize that each cop individually is their own person, and there's a reason why someone acts and reacts to things the way that they do, and never ever to just generalize the entirety of PD based upon your perception of one officer.
Kind of walk me through maybe like with Magnum season, how from your perspective, how this all came to be and your opinions on the situation of it.
I don't think I can give you an official statement. It's usually PD putting their foot down over at least one group or like gang. All it takes is a couple of text messages, and things can easily escalate to the point where months ago we were holding down Mission PD as it was getting sieged. The biggest downfall of Magnum season, at the end of the day, most cops choose to not come to work when things kind of go above a certain point. I understand why they do that, but at the same time, I feel like that's the time when we should be cranking up, not the opposite.
The idea of it is preposterous to me. It's basically what it is. It's a violent uprising against authority, against justice, against, officers doing their job and reacting to how they're supposed to. It's kind of like a lose-lose situation. If the cops don't react strongly to gang violence, then, we're putting the city at risk. And then when cops do react, then they have to deal with Magnum season and targeting and hit lists and all these other ideals. You want what's right. You want what's safe and what's protecting most people. And I think most people during Magnum season, a lot of commentary around it is based on, well, cops reacted too harshly and that's why Magnum season exists. But you have to then, of course, question, what caused the reaction.
How many calls are responded versus how many go unresponded?
No, we don't have an exact KPI for that, but we do get hundreds at least every single day. Obviously, not all of them get responded to, but there's also 911 calls that are just a waste of time and energy, which is why 311 exists. Although 50% of the time, I would say they're wrongly used. You know what might be a good idea here? Also, some that you guys can some palpable that you guys can maybe give back to the public. Maybe some keywords that we can agree on that people, whenever there's an actual urgency, maybe keywords such as hostage, weapon, armed robbery, things like that being mentioned in the message. Maybe that might help.
Also, moving on to something as well. Anonymous asks, does PD plan to do anything about how their officers drive as well as how they interact with the public? I think maybe we focus on the driving aspects.
Driving is a pain in the ass. We do have some terrible drivers.
That was their question, and then they provided an extra. So, and this is word for word what they stated. It says, there have been multiple times where a cop has hit me head on while I'm doing the speed limit, and sometimes while I'm even stopped at an intersection. They would not have any lights or sirens on, nor would they be chasing anyone. I get nervous now anytime I see a cop car because I'm afraid of being hit by them. Some officers are just extremely rude. And then they added that they had felt like they were treated like an idiot.
Typically what happens is there's lights, but they can't hear the sirens, or they didn't hear the sirens until it was too late or something like that. What are we going to do about it is an interesting way to ask the question. Whenever we're aware that anything like that happens, if there's an accident involving police, or if you have any information and you report it to us, then it gets taken care of. If I'm not aware that has happened, I really can't do anything about it.
Some people do say that they don't feel like their reports are looked at, or they feel like things just kind of fall under, I guess, under the rug. What would you guys say in regards to how often are they checked, or how often are they handled, or do some just fall through? Or
it really depends. I would say that most of our things are looked into, whether that's by command members or if it's by the state attorney's office specifically. We look at reports all the time. We look at officer reports, not just reports against officers. We look at incident reports. All those reports are sent somewhere. It's not part of normal processing for most reports that we get back in contact with the person who filed the report, unless it's about they needed to file charges, or if they were making us aware of a restraining order, and then we'll let them know hey, this person has been served, or whatever. But on the most part, if you're reporting something just because you need it to be addressed, we'll address it, but it's not really a part of our process to be hey, we addressed it. It's assumed that once you file it, that it is taken care of.
So another question from the public, from not Andrew Moore, in parentheses. Why do police not have a golf cart?
I don't know why we don't have golf carts, other than I don't know how effective they'd be. We have a lot of vehicles in our fleet, though. I mean, we have SUVs, and we've got pigeons. We have just cruisers. We have bicycles. Yeah.
Motorcycles. Trying to go full green.
Yeah, we have a lot of options. It just never occurred to us that a golf cart might be one. I don't know how effective a golf cart would be.
Are police issued grenade launchers?
Yeah, no, we are not.
How cool would it be? This is just from me. How cool would it be if you were? On a scale from 1 to 100.
I do not want to deal with all the complaints coming from that. There's enough. No. There's plenty as is.
And I don't want to deal with the request for funding to repair all the buildings that would be destroyed, and just public property and the roads and everything. No.
Regina asks, word for word, why does Street K, and where are the decayed bones he collects? I guess how did that come to be? It seems like something that's not even.
Street K specifically transcended into a meme, a joke.
A meme now, yeah.
Yeah, it started from Wolfgang and Street Beef back in the day, about 8 months ago, and then it got overused to the point where it's sort of a greeting at this point. I'm not gonna lie,
it is. I sell elote at the Good Vibes Taco Hut, and people come there and request it to call it street cake corn because it's Mexican street corn, but now it's street cake corn. A lot of cops work there, or a lot of cops do. So
It
I
is.
don't know where all of
And
the
her-
bones are, but that's what it is, right? It's Street K till
Oh,
my bones
back in
decay.
Britain somewhere.
Something like that. Yeah.
I vandalized the prison once. Okay, I graffitied Street K on the prison wall.
Yeah,
Very
you
well
got that-
hidden.
you got that on-
Nobody
you got
found
that
it
on
yet,
record?
but
You got that on record? You graffitied the prison?
Allegedly. Which
Allegedly.
prison? Who knows?
Thank you.
You know,
Oh,
which
which
home
one?
prison.
good luck.
Which
Good
one?
luck proving that.
Bishop, what's going on with your bird program?
Wait, do we talk about that in public, Scarlett?
What program?
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah,
wondering.
Then
bring
an
that up right
article.
here, Scarlett.
Yeah,
There's
you already
cameras
told
and
us.
shit.
Yeah.
Oh.
Told you, like. Anyway, we can probably talk about that some other time, Scarlett. Who knows? Maybe another traffic stop.
And I know we asked it at the beginning, but I want to ask it one more last time from both of you. What is something about the job, about being a law enforcement officer, that you wish citizens understood more, also, or public affairs? What is something you wish people understood more about your guys' job and your career?
The fact that we work with people 99% of the time, and working with people is probably the most difficult job in the world, especially when you kind of bring in the numbers that we have to deal with. Have more empathy, try to look at it from the other side. That applies to both cops, civs, crims, you name it.
I mean, it just kind of goes back to what I said earlier, but the only other thing that I can think of we haven't already talked about is just that no person that works for PD was forced to choose this career. We're doing our best to keep people safe, because at the end of the day, that's what's most important, is making sure that there is, a force to stop the crime. Because imagine what this place would look like if there were no PD presence whatsoever,
If you have a question you would like us to ask, send it to us in the form linked in the description below. To stay up to date on all things Weasel, don't forget to like and subscribe.